Good evening. Welcome to Bharat Shakti. I'm Surya Gangadharan. The Indian Armed Forces have begun the acquisition process, which is going to last for quite some time, for a range of weapons platforms and systems. And these are expected to give the armed forces a huge edge in in the conventional battlefield. I have with me Brigadier S.K. Chatterjee, my colleague, and also Captain D.K. Sharma to provide the insight and the perspective that we need for this edition of Bharat Shakti. So, Brigadier Chatterjee, let's begin with you. And if you could give us a sense of what the Air Force is looking at in this acquisition process that has got underway.
Right, there are basically two items that I'd like to talk about. Though there are three big tickets on the table as we talk, possibly the DAC is already meeting. Well, these are the Tejas aircraft, the Prachand helicopter, and another aircraft carrier. Aircraft carrier, I'll leave it to my co-panelist, DK, who's much more qualified on it. But to take on the aircrafts first, I think Surya, this is a very big step which will be taken in case the AON today is granted for the 96, 97, in fact, Tejas Mark 1 Alpha aircraft, which is on the table as far as the DAC is concerned. The defense minister himself is presiding on the DAC, and he knows how critical this requirement is, and especially when you see from the point of view that there are 42 squadrons which the Air Force is authorized, but what they have today is 31 squadrons, and that too is slowly depleting further because of lack of acquisitions. The recent acquisitions that we have otherwise made from France are not really adequate. So, if, in case these aircrafts do come in, there will be a huge, I would say, upward swing in the operational capability of our Air Force. And as I see it, this also gives a huge breakthrough to the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. They have, after all, laid a manufacturing line for manufacturing these aircraft. Their capacity was at about 8 earlier, which they have increased to some extent, and they intend doing it to 24, I'm told. That is the relevance of this particular event. Surya.
Mhm. So, what is the time frame we are looking at in this entire process?
We are looking at a time frame of 2024 to 2028, and in that time frame I would also like to put in that they have to have additional manufacturing lines put in place, the work for which has already started. In fact, certain amount of it for the second this thing production line. Each production line is, as much as I am aware, 8 to 10 aircrafts per year. So
Mm.
one production line in addition has already been placed to some point, and the third production line is, of course, being thought of and will be there. The HAL wants to finish this contract faster than they have promised.
I see. I see. Captain Sharma, let's come to you. What is the Navy looking at in this process?
Look, Surya, what I gather is that our long felt need of the second aircraft carrier indigenous, which is to be produced in the country, is, I think, on the discussion table, and the case is progressing. I don't know whether it is being taken up today or not, but as of yesterday, the Defense Procurement Board has cleared. So, insofar as ISC2 is concerned, most appropriate time is now, otherwise we will be late. As you are aware that it takes a lot of time. The gestation period for making an aircraft carrier is almost 15 years. And if you recollect that Ines Vikrant, which is the replacement for Virat, this keel laying was done in 2007, and the ship was finally delivered and commissioned in the Indian Navy in October 22, which took
Oh,
straight 15 years. But that
yeah.
was the first of its kind. But now we have the expertise, we have the manpower available in Cochin, and the government of India, after the Navy has convinced them that, of course, if we can't, everybody has got a desire list is different, but what is must? So this is a must because in our geopolitical, geostrategic environment, we need three aircraft carriers. two always available, and one which undergoes maintenance, refit, and repairs. So now you're aware that we have Vikramaditya, which joined the Indian Navy in 2013, and
Yeah.
then Vikrant, which joined us in 2022. So now, even if this project starts, it will take minimum 10 years, which means we are looking at inducting this ship somewhere in 2033. So,
Mhm.
right time, requirement, yes. Expertise, yes. And it meets the biggest criteria of the government of the day, Atmanirbharta.
Mhm.
100% the ship is going to be made over here. Yes, few things will be imported, and in the next 10 years, how the ecosystem changes, responds, is a very very difficult thing to predict. But this aircraft carrier is a must for the Navy. It's not only the Navy, but the armed forces in the country. The way we are looking at, you see, our responsibility has increased from IOR, now it is IOR to Indo Pacific. So we need these kinds of assets if we are being made accountable, or we are being made responsible for the areas totally by like-minded navies, where we are dividing the areas, we are sharing responsibilities. so
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
uh, so that is my take on it, that it meets all the requirement. We have the funds, we have the will, we have the expertise, we have the wherewithal, we have the raw material, everything is available.
What about the air element for this aircraft carrier?
Well, you have come to the right point. As we are speaking, we have already got the approvals for Rafale Marine. 26 of
Mhm.
them will come, and they will address the requirement of the air arm, the fleet air arm on board Vikrant. And as we go ahead, you see, ISC 2, the second indigenous aircraft carrier, will take at least a decade from here
Yeah.
onwards if we sign it today. If the government of India hands over contract to CSL, that okay, go ahead. So it will take 10 years. By that time, what we gather from the environment is that Rafale Marines will be delivered to us, all 26 of them, by 2026, 2027. And that is
Mhm.
the time when the fleet air arm on board Romeo 11, which is Vikrant, will be complete. So we have
Mhm.
the MiG 21 air arm on board Romeo 33, which is the Russian origin. Now, this will cater for the Rafale Marine. And as you're already aware, that the TED-BF, twin engine deck based fighter, is already been approved. So now, how HAL takes it forward, and what we are told is that the prototype will be up and in air in the next 3, 4, 5 years. So, which is a right, kind of a convergence of thoughts, ideas, plans, and execution. That TED-BF comes in, MiG 29s are then, laid off. TED-BF comes for ISC-2, Rafale Marine is for ISC-1, and since ISC-1 and ISC-2 complement each other, the fleet air arm can, crisscross and operate from both the decks. And of course,
Mhm.
Romeo 33 will have, and by the time, let's see how things pan out. So this is
Mhm.
where the fleet air arm is. This is where the ISC-2 is, and you're also aware that we have got the order and the supply of MH-60R, which is going to be the deck-based MRH, multi-role helicopter. So that
Mhm.
completes the whole thing of aircraft carrier or the carrier battle group, which will move. There will be ships along with that. So this completes the CBG-1, CBG-2, and one will
Mhm.
obviously be under repairs and maintenance at any given time.
Mhm. So the Rafale is like a gap filler until the deck-based fighter comes in.
Yes, because MiG 29, the availability, there are issues. We
Yeah.
had 46 of them, actually two squadrons. But as the performance, or when something good is available, and the Air Force has already taken two squadrons. So this is which was offered to us, and it has got better reach, better, strike capability, better response, better availability. Operational availability of an aircraft decides whether it is good or bad. You see, unfortunately, there are issues with the MiG 29Ks, every
Yeah.
landing, every takeoff, and things like that. But this is a proven aircraft which is being flying with the French Navy on board their carrier. So I would say nothing can be better than that. And of
Mhm.
course, they
Well,
have won everything from a very, very healthy competition between the Super Hornets and the Rafale Marines. So it is not that we are going blindfoldedly. They were both there. They have been tested, tried. Every QR was seen and has been cleared by the acquisition authorities.
Brigadier Chatterjee,
Yes.
the army's requirements at this point. What is the army looking at?
Other than the aircraft that I talked about, Tejas aircraft, what we're looking for in this particular Defense Acquisition Council meeting are helicopters. There's a huge case for helicopters, which is there again on the table, as much as we understand from whatever sources we have information of, that there is a case for 156 Prachanda helicopters, which is
Mhm.
there on the table. And this is split between the Army and the Air Force. 90 of them are to go to the Army, and the balance 66 are to go to the Air Force. Now, to just give you a little bit of idea about Prachanda helicopter, primarily Prachanda helicopter is an attack helicopter. It's
Mhm.
used by by the services, let us say, to attack an object on the ground. So it's got a it's got multiple kinds of armaments which is fitted onto it. It has got the turret guns, it's got the missiles, and it's also got the rockets. Now, the army requires it as well as the air force requires it because the air force takes on a lot of support, helicopter support operations in conjunction with the army's advance into enemy territory, or let's say whenever the enemy advances into our territory, that kind of an
Mhm.
atmosphere. So I would say that that is one of the major issues that is there for discussions today at DAC. And also to tell you a little bit about Prachanda helicopter, it's displayed already the highest fighting capability, highest altitude fighting capability so far. So it's a very good machine. It's a Safran engine and based, of course, on the basic model of in the HAL's Dhruv aircraft, Dhruv helicopters. So that's
Mhm.
where we stand.
Tell me, sir. The you mentioned the army is getting more of these helicopters than the air force.
Yes, the army is getting more of these helicopters in the air force. I'll tell you why. A similar aircraft with an aircraft, let's say, with a similar role is the H-64 that we had contracted with the Apache H-64. Now, Apache H-64 is also a helicopter, which is an attack helicopter. It's supposed to be taking on primarily enemy tanks. That's the role in battle. Of course, all these helicopters are multi-role and they could be doing other roles also. Now, in the last contract that we had with the Americans for Apache H-64, there were only 6 helicopters, and that was in fact a separate contract which came to the Army. The balance,
Mhm.
if I'm not wrong, it's about 20 plus went to the Air Force. Because traditionally, right from the beginning, the Air Force has been flying the helicopters supporting the movement of mechanized formations in the battlefield. And equally true is the fact that the army has been looking at taking on those operations itself because they feel a helicopter pilot who's been, let's say, bred in the army, who's really earned his little bit of expertise there in the army, is better suited to understand the mechanized battle and then take action as per that is concerned. So we
Mhm.
find that more of this new helicopters, Prachanda helicopters, coming to the army and a lesser number going to the Air Force.
Now I'm looking at the cost of these entire platforms. These don't come cheap. What's the estimated cost, Captain DK?
Surya, the best part is that the whole of this money is going to get rotated inside our economy. It is not leaving our shores. Very, very minimal amount will leave our shores. An aircraft carrier, anything more than 50,000 crores. And I'm
Mhm.
not talking of the air element on top. So it's
Yeah.
a very long and a very, very heavy investment insofar as Navy is concerned. But then we must understand it is spread over 10, 15 years. And we can very well, we have our maritime capability perspective plans. All this is catered for that. and the outflow is not going to be as dangerous as it looks in the fine print on the
Hmm.
newspapers that
Yeah.
India to buy assets worth 2 lakh crores. One must understand that this is spread over next 15, 20 years, which is very, very comfortable position for us. And yes, all this planning and everything is being done in close coordination with the finance ministry, the defense ministry, and the PMO knows it. They monitor it. So there is nothing very great in it. But yes, lots of money, big ticket event items which are to be procured. And the best part is it is going to get rotated back. It's as the last chief of the naval staff used to say, it is getting plowed back in the economy, and it is going to do good for every one of us.
So until recently, sir, it was the general sense one got is that India didn't need another aircraft carrier. The preference was, I believe, for submarines. Is that correct?
Everything is required, Surya. It is not that we need X and Y and Z. It is not that one thing will be bought at the cost of another. There is a parallel process running for the Project 75 India submarines. There is also an approval for additional submarines of Scorpion class. There is a parallel thing running for the strategic boats. So it is not that things are not happening and this will be bought and that will not be bought. We are a very, very matured armed force, and it is not that one thing will be bought at the cost of another. Everything is planned. As I told you, the maritime capability perspective plan lists out everything and how things are to be procured. Yes, there are some delays, there are some roadblocks, things do come and go, but as the things are changing, and you will find things changing more towards as we progress, because now there is a thought of manned unmanned handshake. There is going to be some kind of balancing between manned and unmanned, and then how you see whether it is in air, on surface, subsurface. Things are changing, technology is coming in, but with a pinch of salt, for everything you need a man behind it. And so this
Yeah.
very fine balance of man unmanned handshake will have to be decided by the top hierarchy, the top leadership, and how it is to be brought in. But everything is on track. And as in these contemporary times, and looking at all the threats which are there, which could be there, and how the geopolitical geostrategic environment changes, things will be accordingly, you know, positioned.
Mhm. Brigadier Chatterjee, leaving aside the Prachand helicopter for the army, what else is the army looking at further down the road? One hears of a light tank which is under development. What else is there?
We have this light tank that you talked about, Zorawar, which is being developed primarily, I think, by Larsen Togo. And we have also been deficient, or I would say we have not really gone in for modernization of our artillery in a big enough way. So
Mhm.
obviously there are lots of guns to be bought, primarily 155 millimeter guns which have to be bought. We did buy some 155 light houses for the army a couple of years back, but these are meant for mountain formations only. We need them for planes also. After all, we have an opposition to our west also, which cannot be trusted. What time does it erupt is gone is something that we cannot predict. So you need a lot of artillery, of course, there. The infantry requires a modernization and they carry on with their modernization. They're empowering the soldiers better, making battle transparency better. So there are any number of areas in which you require. You also require, when you go out of this equipment business, they also require a reorganization of medical planning, which is already in place. We have got chief of defense staff. We are also going in for theater commands. It will take its time, but I'm sure, are moving now on all fronts to get our combat capability optimized to meet a threat both from the north as also from the west.
Mhm. The Chinese had the PLA had a phased modernization plan. Is there something of the kind that we're also proceeding on? Do we have a
All
deadline?
Uh, all modernization is phased because this is a huge army. It's something like when you look at the 100% of. I'm just talking about our army first. We'll go to PMA later. When we talk about 100% of our army, what we really have to at least ensure is 30% of the equipment is absolute state of art. Let's say
Mhm.
another 40% of equipment is, well, you have to start planning on getting them replaced. And maybe 20-30% of the equipment is such equipment which really should have been, you can call it legacy equipment, which is hanging on, which needs to be chucked out as soon as possible. So that kind of, you can't, even if we decide to buy a rifle and change the rifle of all soldiers, it's 1 million people. It's
Hmm.
10 lakh people. So how do you change it overnight? You can't change it. So you have to go through this theory of 30%, 40%, 30%, something like that, and then change it gradually. As far as the PL is concerned, they did some reforms. Their higher organizational defense structure reforms, they've gone in for theater commands already. And as far as equipping their forces is concerned, it appears their pace of modernization is certainly great. And they have also found some amount of strategic focus on strategic elements in the battlefield, like their rocket force, their rocket artillery, etc., which they have emphasized more on their information warfare capability, their cyber warfare capability. After all, warfare is not limited to just this land forces, air force, and the helicopters today. You have the cyber domain also. You have information domain also. You have to dominate in all those domains in order to
Yeah.
be a power, or in order to have the capability to deliver a victory of some sorts. Even then, victory may be quite difficult in today's world, as we see there
Yeah.
in Ukraine.
Captain DK,
Yes, sir.
one question about the submarine arm. You touched upon it briefly, but the submarine production program is lagging behind, isn't it?
Lagging, yes, but very much on track. So if we say that, yes, it should have been addressed much, much, much earlier, but then there are some things which are beyond us. You see, we had a submarine building plan which was approved in late 90s,
Yeah.
which envisaged 24 boats by 2030. Unfortunately, we have only been able to make six out of them, and we are in 2023. So that is why there is an urgency, and I believe and I understand that the RFP has been given out, and two OEMs in strategic partnership with two yards in India have bid for it. So let's see who wins the contract, how it pans out, and when does the actual contract is getting awarded to X or Y. But yes,
You
you're
know,
very right
you
in
know,
that.
it's been remarked before that the Indian Navy seems to have operated every kind of submarine, from Russian and German to French now. I mean, we seem to be coming full circle, and we don't
Uh,
appear to have developed our own abilities. Is that a fair assumption?
you see, a little bit I can share with you, not much because I'm not much aware of it. We are making the strategic boats. Insofar as these boats are
Yeah.
concerned, whether and by the way, the Scorpions have been made in India with little bit of transfer of technology, and with DCNS France coming and
Hmm.
opening their shop over here, which is now called Naval Group India. They have helped us a lot of. Otherwise, what was happening, that we were picking up the boat from there, like the erstwhile USSR. So Russian boats were there, as the EKMs were there with us in
Yeah.
good strength, 10 boats. Then we had four SSKs. Two were made in India in MDL, and two were picked up from Germany. So that is the kind of force which was, from the Foxtrots to the EKMs and the SSKs. And now this is the transition period when we are going for the latest kind of boats, which is the Scorpion, and now the new contract which we have looked for, which we have bid for, which is the Project 75 India, which looks for better stealth, AIP plug, and vertical launch missiles capable boats. So let's see who wins it and how fast it comes out. But yes, we are very late in that, and which indirectly means that whatever is in our inventory will have to be maintained in a very, 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 very smart manner, so that they are available till the time the replacements are there.
Brigadier Chatterjee, Captain Sharma, great insight from both of you. And we are bang on time with the major acquisition process getting underway. Thank you very much. That's
Thank
all
you,
we have
Surya.
for you today on Bharat Shakti. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media. Thank you very much. Good night.